Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's Board of Appeals hearing. Before we begin, let me introduce some members of the town government that act as advisors to this board. To my left is Paul Hennings, counsel to the board. To his left is Allison Murray, planner in the planning department. Now let me tell you why you're here tonight. New York State statute requires that any town that adopts zoning must also have a Board of Appeals to act as a relief valve so that those persons aggrieved by strict application of the zoning ordinance can seek relief without the expense of going to court. Town board can give Board of Appeals additional powers such as special exception approvals, site plan approvals, etc. In Smithtown, the town board has given this board authority regarding certificate of existing use and some special exception uses. The most common kind of application before the board are area variances. Area variants deal with dimensions such as lot area, frontage, height, setback, and parking spaces. New York State statute mandates that the board must consider the following 5 criteria in area variances. When you come to the podium to present your application, you need to address these 5 areas. They're posted here for you. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created. Number 2, whether the applicant has other feasible alternatives. Number 3, whether the variance is substantial. Number 4, whether an adverse impact on the environment will be created. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty is self-created. The statute requires the board to balance the interest of the applicant and those in the neighborhood or community. This statute further requires that the board shall grant the minimum variance it shall deem necessary and adequate, and at the same time preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. The board has the power to impose reasonable conditions for granting variances. Special exception applications are different than area variances. When we have a special exception application before us, I will explain the different criteria. Regarding procedure, cases will be called in order that they are advertised. When your case is called, please come forward, submit your affidavits and mailing receipts to Ms. Murray, and then you'll be sworn in the podium, and you'll be given the opportunity to explain to the board why you need this variance. After the applicant is done speaking, all interested parties will be given one opportunity and only one opportunity to be heard. So please organize your thoughts, keep your remarks factual that are related to the case, and then I will ask the applicant to come back to the podium to answer your concerns. The board will then close the case and reserve decision. After all the hearings are closed, the board will review the cases and decide some of them. Others will be reviewed at a later date. There are 3 ways to find out the results of the case. You can wait until after the public hearing, but there's no guarantee the board will act on your case tonight. 2, you can call the planning department tomorrow afternoon. And 3, applicants can wait and be notified by mail. We do have some adjournments, so let me tell you what the adjournments are. Case 17178, Charles Muller, it's 7 Seashell Lane. Was there anyone for that case? That has been adjourned to August 12th. The next case that's adjourned is case 17182, Decanio Management Corp. That has been adjourned to September 9th. Anyone here for that case? Okay. Okay. Allison, go ahead.
The first case on tonight is case number 17177, Universal Property Holdings, LLC. The location is 310 Oser Avenue in Hauppauge. It's the north side of Oser Avenue, 1,036 feet west of Adams Avenue. Property is zoned LI. The request is a variance to reduce the minimum parking setback from side and rear property lines from 6 feet to 0 feet, and to reduce the number of required parking spaces from 89 to 65.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Allison Murray. If you would take a moment and look at the site plan submitted, you can see that not only is there a hand-drawn site plan, but there's also an aerial view in the lower right-hand corner. And I indicate that only because you can see that many of the buildings have parking which is right up to the line and don't, excuse me, require that setback. This is, you know, almost the norm in the industrial park. The parking is right up to the line. The other variance that we're asking for is a parking variance, and the parking variance is from 85 or 89 to 65. The 89 is based upon the usage, which is, you'll see again in the site plan itself. The office use is about, I think it says 12,000, and the manufacturing or warehouse, no, the warehouse use is the balance of the size of the building. So this is something that won't change the character of the area. They're all industrial buildings in the Hop Park Industrial Park. There are probably 6 or 7 buildings right around it that have the same zero setback. If you look at the pictures that we submitted, you'll see the building behind us is right up to the line with some sort of storage, as well as the right side yard. So we asked the board for its favorable consideration. This is not something that's abnormal in the industrial park. Actually, the present owner is being forced to sell the building, and a new company is coming in, and this is all subject to this board granting these variances. We don't feel it will have an adverse effect on the character of the area. Again, I said it's all industrial buildings there. When you look at the pictures, looking at it from the street, from Mercer Avenue, there is no indication of any kind of encroachment of parking, of the buffer for the parking. We don't believe the variance is substantial, especially, again, in the industrial park, as all the buildings around seem to kind of encroach on that parking buffer. Yes, the difficulty was self-created. They did pave an additional portion of the parking lot, but again, it's in the back, and it has no effect on what you see from Mercer Avenue. So we ask the board for its favorable consideration.
Allison?
Just one question. Is the use of the building changing?
Yeah, but it's the same type of use, manufacturing. This is a forced sale, and they have to either get these variances or they don't sell the building. So.
Is the reason for the need for the parking variance an addition of office space?
No, actually, the additional parking was put in previously. They just did it without permits or site plan approval. Actually, the office space, 12,000. It was a little more before.
Okay. Gentlemen, any other questions?
No question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Be regularly moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
The following case to be heard tonight is case number 17179, Philip Beisner. Location is 4 Pine Acre Drive, the north side of Pine Acre Drive, 81 feet east of Meadow Road in Smithtown. Property is zoned R21. The request is a variance to reduce the minimum lot area from 21,780 square feet to 8,950 square feet, which is existing, to reduce the minimum lot frontage at the setback line from 100 feet to 90 feet, which is existing, to reduce the minimum rear yard from 75 feet to 35 feet, to increase the maximum gross floor area of the lot from 25% to 28%, for a proposed 58 square foot addition to a non-conforming structure.
Okay, and your name, please?
My name is John Cox. I'm the contractor for Mr. and Mrs.
I
Beisner,
need
right
the
here.
applicant first.
Can you just say hello? Yeah.
Thank you.
Good
May I have
evening.
your name, please?
I'm Philip Eisner,
And your address, Philip?
4 Pine Acre Drive, Smithtown.
Okay, raise your right hand.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
Yes, this is John Cox.
Okay. Okay. Okay, John, and would you please spell your last name?
COX,
Okay. And your address, please?
20 Camp Drive in Selden.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so what we're trying to do is we'd like to build on to a non-conforming structure, their houses. And what we're doing is just a small addition on the back to extend the bathroom, not the kitchen. And it's about 6'10" by 8'4", so it's really like it's a very small addition. If you see the pictures that I submitted of the house, the way it is just squared, it just basically squares off that little section on the deck there. We're going to remove that part of the deck there and going to just square it out. It's not going to exceed any farther out than the back of the house already is. It's just going to extend out about, like I said, 6 foot 10 inches to the right of the house, and then 8 foot 4 inches back. As far as answering your questions here, it's a change that's going to look nice on the house. It's in the back of the house. Makes no one's going to ever know it was done. As far as there's no other way that we could have achieved it the way the house was designed. They designed the house when it was done many years ago, and they couldn't really make the kitchen any bigger because the stairs going into a crawl space and right in the middle. It's a small addition, so it's not substantial. It's 58 square feet. It doesn't have any kind of adverse effect on the neighborhood. And as far as being self-created, it was the structure of the house originally that really caused this condition.
Thank you. Planning?
No comments.
Gentlemen? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Really moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
The next case to be heard is 17180 William Ebinger, location 190 3rd Street. It's the southeast corner of 2nd Avenue and 3rd Street in St. James. The property is zoned R10. The request is a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback on 2nd Avenue from 25 feet to 12 feet for a proposed pool, to reduce the distance from a lot line from 6 feet to 4 feet for a proposed in-ground swimming pool, to reduce the minimum front yard setback of a proposed 6-foot fence from the edge of road pavement from 20 feet to 8 feet on 2nd Avenue.
It reads a little bit differently because we had it corrected. It reads a little bit different than what we have advertised. So it's going from 25 to 8. May I have your name, please?
Good evening. My name is Bill Ebinger,
And your address, please.
193rd Street, St. James.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Okay. Would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
I would.
Thank you. And your name, please?
Peter Booth, B-O-O-T-H, 5 Kirk Avenue, Ronkonkoma, New York.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Mr. Ebinger comes before the board requesting a front yard setback variance for the installation of an in-ground swimming pool, as well as variance for a fence on the front yard as well. A couple of things. Number one, Mr. Ebinger had been before this board. The fence that we're looking at as a 6-foot fence on Second Avenue is actually a 4-foot fence. Okay, he had gotten a variance for that previously, so I'd like to amend the application to read, instead of the 6-foot fence in the front yard, a 4-foot fence in the front yard.
So there's,
Go ahead.
sorry, just clarification, you're not proposing to install a 6-foot fence?
That's correct.
Okay, so then in that case, there is no variance required.
That's correct. Okay? The pool itself is going to be 12 foot off the front yard, off of Second Avenue, which in the past, the board has granted a front yard setback for the roof over patio that you see in the front of the house. The roof over patio was granted at 10 foot. We're asking 12 foot. So it's not substantial in the relief. The last thing is, Mr. Ebinger also had previously gotten a permit for a shed, which you see in the corner, in the southeast corner of the property, but that was in a different location. The shed has moved into the corner and is maintaining a 2-foot and 3-foot setback, which I believe may fall under the category of a variance as well, which I'm not sure whether we can add this to the minutes this evening.
We cannot. That was not advertised.
Okay. Then I'll put it before the board. You know, should they have any questions. Certainly, it's not going to have any undesirable change to the neighborhood. The benefit cannot be sought any other area because of cesspools and so on in the rear yard. The variance is not substantial, being that it was already approved for a 10-foot for the front yard setback on the overhead, on the roof over. It will not have any adverse effect on the surrounding properties, and certainly it was not self-created due to the location of the cesspools and so on.
You're going to have to come back here for the shed.
That's okay. All right,
All right.
we'll have to.
It's 2 feet on one side and what is the other? It's both rear yard, it's, huh? 3? How high is the shed?
How high is the shed?
How high? The dimensions are 10 by 14.
The
It's
height.
the height. It's actually the permit for the shed is on file. We had it in a different location, and we moved the shed, so I apologize, I don't have the dimension, but I did file it previously.
Okay.
We just moved it on the yard into the corner.
Is it 6 foot, 7 foot?
It should be this standard, I would say 6 feet tall.
6 or 8 feet, yeah. You're going to have to come back, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, we won't hold the rest of it up.
Excuse me?
We'll vote on what's before us,
Right,
and we won't hold it up.
okay,
Then you'll just have to do the shed.
Okay.
All right?
sure.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, gentlemen? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Wait a minute, did you want to be heard? Yes. Oh, wait a minute, you should have done it before I closed the hearing. All right, come on up. Let me have your name, please.
Tim Walsh, W-A-L-Z is my last name, and I live behind the neighbor.
I need your address.
306 3rd Avenue, St. James.
Okay, raise, what? Say the address again.
306 3rd Avenue, St. James.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
I don't think he should, if the 6-foot fence that is listed, I don't think it should be put on, be put up, because this is what happened the last time when the board granted a permit about the garage and that shed was moved 2 years ago, or a year ago, and the board should have said something, he should have said something to get a permit, a CO on the shed after they moved it. Because
well,
the shed was in a
he
different
knows he
location.
has to come back
Okay,
to the shed.
okay, but the fence, I think it should be 4 foot because it's on the front yard.
It is 4
Yeah,
foot.
but I'm thinking it should not be changed.
It's not being
Again.
changed.
Okay?
There was some confusion as a result of the advertisement, but according to the applicant, they are not proposing a 6-foot fence at all. It will only be a 4-foot fence, so the board will not be granting that variance.
Well, please keep it at 4 feet, please.
May I have your name, please?
Carl Walsh Jr.,
Spell your last name.
W-A-L-Z
Okay.
Jr.,
Raise
J.R.
your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. It's my impression, I drive by that street all the time, it's my impression that that fence on Second Avenue is a 6-foot fence. I mean, it looks like a 6-foot fence to me, and there's a 6-foot fence on our side of the property, which tapers down to a 4-foot fence. So, I mean, it looks like there's a 6-foot fence around the whole property, except for the front yard facing 3rd Street on the side of the garage, and
No.
then on the back where the gate is. But it looks to me like it's a 6-foot fence.
The fence on the Second Avenue is a 4-foot fence. I walk the property.
Okay, then it must be deceiving because it's behind all trees.
Yes, it is we
Okay.
did walk the property.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right, now I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second?
You ready? Move second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
The next case to be heard is case number 17181, Frank Alessi. The location is 32 Garrick Street, south side of Garrick Street, 85 feet east of Ruth Boulevard in Comac. Property is zoned R10. The variance is to reduce the minimum front yard from 40 feet to 35 feet for a proposed 255 square foot roof over porch, to reduce the rear yard setback from 50 feet to 30 feet for a proposed 1,259 square foot first floor addition, to reduce the total side yard setback from 28 feet to 25 feet for a proposed 21 square foot garage addition, first floor addition, and porch.
Okay, may I have your name, please?
Frank Alessi,
And your address?
32 Garrick Street, Comac.
Right. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Good. Would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
Yes, I do.
Madam Chair, sorry if
Yes.
I can just interrupt. Do you have the affidavits of posting and compliance? Do you mind?
It's okay.
Great. Thank you. One more question. The affidavit of posting was notarized on the 11th of June, rather than today. It needed to be notarized today.
Today? I put the sign up, so I know it's been there since last Tuesday,
What?
that sign.
It has to be notarized today. You want me to have it notarized?
Okay.
Want me to have someone notarize it? If you can get Mr. Tramarko to notarize it later?
Yes.
Okay. See who's the cheaper price. All right, may I have your name, please?
Jerry Cicciari, architect with an office at 120 Hayrick Lane in Comac, New York.
All right, spell your last name for,
Cicciari.
okay? Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman and members of the board,
Use the mic as much as you can, please.
we are
You can take it out.
We are here tonight to ask for a variance for a proposed one-story rear addition on the existing residence and for a variance for a front yard setback for a covered porch. I want to make one clarification on the notice. The notice says that the overall side yard aggregate is reduced from 28 to 25, but by the numbers, it's actually 25.9.
Oh,
So I wanted to
yeah.
let you know that
Okay.
we're only short 2.1 feet.
Okay.
Mr. and Mrs. Alessi engaged our office a couple of months ago to provide them with a more livable floor plan on this house that they've owned since May. They have 2 children on and off living with them, and the 3rd child lives in the neighborhood. This neighborhood itself is one-family residential structures dating from the early 50s, and we are upgrading the image of this house by this addition with the porch and updating the living spaces. Their needs were the floor plan itself on the second sheet shows the existing conditions. It's a 1950s typical layout, very confined spaces. They needed better bedroom spaces. They wanted a living room, a dining room, and a den, a full-size kitchen, and an additional bathroom. They were budget concerned, so we're very restrictive in what we can really do here. And of course, they wanted the feature of the front of the house to be changed by having a covered porch. So we then looked at some modest solutions, bearing in mind their requirements to expand this house and yet stay as much as possible within the zoning requirements and restrictions. And I came up with this plan with their approval, and it requires these variances. The difficulties that we're facing here is that the property is irregularly shaped in the rear yard. It has that skew, and that skew has created what is listed in the advertisement as a rear yard from 50 to 30 feet, and that's because of the skew. The other rear yard, which is parallel to the back of the existing house, is only 43.5-foot rear yard. So we actually have 2 different dimensions for the rear yard setback. One is larger and one is less. That's the practical difficulty here, is that one rear yard on that skew line is cutting almost 1/3 of this proposed addition, and that is our reason before the board here. The layout of the plan created the side yard aggregate because we bumped out a piece of the bedroom for closet space. Had we looked at an alternative plan to put it into the bedroom, we would have been pushing the house to the rear yard more, and that would have triggered another variance, lot coverage. So while this addition looks large, it really is under the lot coverage, and that's not part of a question for tonight. We did look at an alternative of trying to go to the 2nd floor based on their input to me, and their answer was that they're going to live in this house and age in this house, and they're concerned with looking at an alternative to put the bedroom spaces upstairs on the 2nd floor would create a more practical hardship of walking up and down the stairs as they're getting on in years and staying in the same house. They have family rooted in the neighborhood already, and they want to stay here. So this was really the only practical solution. The floor plan is yielding something that's very modest based on their needs. When we understand what was going on and the effect of the neighborhood, Mr. and Mrs. went around to the neighbors. At least 5 of them they were able to contact, and 3 of them signed a letter of no opposition, and I'd like to submit that to the board. And Mr. and Mrs. Alesi understand that the board, in their determination, will take into consideration the benefit to themselves if the variance is granted, and as weighing against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood if such granting is made. We understand by your criteria here whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by granting this variance. In my 35 years as a practicing architect, I have never had a property that I didn't raise the value or raise the aesthetic appeal of a property. If you look at the elevations, you could see that it is a very modest, simple change, but very effective change that makes the house a prominent appearance to all who will benefit by its aesthetic appeal. And it's very simple. The second criteria, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. I briefly touched upon that. That would be a practical hardship long-term, which is why we didn't go for a second floor and not have as large a rear addition. But I still think even if we went to a second floor and had a part addition, that 50-foot setback line would have probably been in effect anyway, so I think we would have been before the board anyway. The third, whether the request for the variance is substantial, it is not. It's the practical layout of the lot that created the bigger setback for that variance. The side yard, in reality, we're only asking for a 2.1-foot relief. The front yard is something similar. We have 2 foot of free space for the front yard because the zoning district requires a 40-foot setback. We have 42. I can't build a front yard porch from a practical standpoint of only 2 feet. So we're asking for 5-foot relief of the front yard to create a 7-foot covered porch. We don't believe that that is substantial either. Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood, in my professional opinion, definitely not. This is in complement to the existing neighborhood. The materials that we'll use will all be under what we call a green construction type of materials, environmentally safe. The last criteria, whether the difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision to the board. It's self-created because we haven't done it yet. We're proposing, okay? The creation comes about because of the way the lot is laid out and its setback. And in conclusion, we would like to have the board favorable decision as we would like to build. They just bought the house in May. It's going to be hopefully worked on shortly, so they can move in lock, stock, and barrel. And at that, if there are any questions to myself or Mr. Alessi, we will entertain it.
Planning? Okay. Gentlemen?
No question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Is ready moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
The next case to be heard tonight is case number 17183, Maureen O'Rourke Pisano. The property is located at 100 Harvard Avenue. It's the south side of Harvard Avenue, 555 feet west of New York Avenue in Smithtown. The property is zoned R10. The request is a variance to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered. That's for depth to groundwater of less than 10 feet. To permit environmentally sensitive lands to be used to calculate the permitted density, building coverage, floor area, or minimum lot area. To reduce the minimum required buildable lot area from 10,000 square feet to 0 square feet due to high groundwater, and to increase the maximum permitted gross floor area of the lot from 25% to 100% due to groundwater.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, my name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted affidavits of posting and mailing to Allison Murray. This is a high groundwater area, obviously, and all around Harvard Avenue and Vassar and roads off Maple Avenue are typically high groundwater. One of the not typical aspect of this particular lot is that it's a double lot, if you will. It goes, if you look at the survey, from Harvard all the way to Vassar. Most lots in the area are 10,000 square feet or less, and this is a double lot, if you will. The porch was built some time ago. It's a sunroom, really. You have the plans in your folder, and there's a partially in-ground swimming pool, both of which, because of the high groundwater, requires us to come here and ask for this variance. Were it not for the high groundwater, we would be going and getting building permits, as there is no other variances required. As I said, it's a double lot, and certainly there is enough room for both of these items that we are asking the variance for. Would it be a change in the character of the area? Actually, you can't even see any of the two things applied for tonight. The porch or the pool especially goes all the way in the back. Could we achieve this by some other method? We can't lower the water table. There's no way to do it. God made it that way. Whether the requested area variance is substantial, no. I mean, people build in high groundwater all the time. We just have an ordinance that requires us to come to you for a variance from that high groundwater. Whether the variance would have an adverse effect or physical impact or environmental impact on the area, no. House has been there for many years, as the two improvements that we're talking about. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, well, we did build the pool and the porch without the benefit of permit, but we didn't create the water problem, which has probably been there for 100 years or more, or maybe longer than that. So we ask the board for its favorable consideration. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Planning?
No comments.
Gentlemen?
No question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Is there anything moved in second? All in favor?
Aye.
The following case is case number 17136 for Capital One Bank. Location is 2050 Jericho Turnpike, located at the south side of Jericho Turnpike, 250 feet east of Walter Court in Comac. Property is zoned SCB. The request is a variance to increase the number of wall signs from 1 to 3 and to permit 2 wall signs not to face a public street.
May I have your name, please?
Name is Ricardo Cervini, Cervini. Address 229 Smithtown Boulevard, Nesconset, New York.
Senior attorney?
I've represented in the last hearing, so I have the durable power of attorney on file.
Is that all right? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Since the previous hearing, the planning board had given this board misrepresentation, or misinformation, I should say, to what the previous bank was. It was North Fork Bank, and this board approved back in 2000. Are you familiar with that approval? Do you have a copy?
Mm-hmm.
So, which this board approved 2 signs not facing a public street. And they also did make a stipulation that 24 square feet would be the max, but the existing signs are 25 square feet, and we'd like to maintain the additional 1 square foot. I did notice the People's United Bank, which I think you have a plot plan there, which would be east of this building. They had an approval for a 29 square foot sign, wall sign, back in 2011. So if the board should approve this, it would not increase the, or change the character of this shopping center. Does the board have any questions?
Planning?
No.
Gentlemen?
No question.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
Did you have anything? Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Really moving second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried.
The next case to be heard tonight is case number 117157, rehearing for Brixmore Property Group, locations Kings Park Plaza, the west side of Indian Head Road, 228 feet north of Hudson Drive in Kings Park. Property is zoned SCB. The request is a variance to permit an accessory structure height from 0 feet to 38 feet for 7 existing poles, and to increase the square footage of a ground sign from 32 square feet to 88 square feet.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. My name is Anthony Guardino. I'm a partner with the law firm of Farrell Fritz in Hauppauge, New York. I represent the applicant Brixmore SPE2 LLC, which owns the Kings Park Plaza Shopping Center. Brixmore is seeking a variance to maintain light poles in excess of the permissible height, and also a variance to maintain a freestanding ground sign that exceeds the maximum sign area. As you will recall, the matter was originally noticed for June 24th of 2014, but was adjourned after we had noted a discrepancy in the plans, which of course created a discrepancy in the legal notice. So we've got that all straightened out, and we're here before you tonight. I have with me Jay Tuller of Rosenbaum Design Group. I'm going to ask him to say a few words when I'm done. But basically, the property, I'm sure you're all familiar with it. It's about 10 acres of land located on the west side of Indian Head Road, southwest of its intersection with Meadow Road in the hamlet of Kings Park. It is a single tax lot, Section 27, Block 2, Lot 12 on the tax map. And you have in the booklet I just handed out, you can see an aerial photograph and some other maps and other exhibits that show the relative location of the property. Property is zoned SCB. It is currently improved with a shopping center that's a little more than 74,000 square feet, has associated parking, landscaping, and site improvements. There are photos in your booklet at Exhibit 4. The shopping center was constructed in 1962 and serves really as the only major shopping center in Kings Park. It was renovated several times since it was originally constructed, and the latest facade renovation occurred in 2013. As you're probably familiar, they did a real nice job with the facade renovation. But as part of that renovation, there were some existing light poles that were replaced in the parking lot, and there was one new light pole that was added to the parking lot pretty much across from where TJ Maxx is. There was a pole that was added there. That's near the north end of the parking lot. And the poles range in height from 27 feet 9 inches to 38 feet. And the height of the 3 poles that are labeled as EX1 and N1 on the plan that were submitted, they are actually, the pole itself, the metal pole is 35 feet in height, but they're installed on a concrete base that is approximately 3 feet in height. That was the discrepancy from last month. We were told the poles were 35 feet, and they are 35 feet, but they actually sit on something that raises them a little bit higher, so that's why we're asking for the 38 feet. The renovation also included the construction of a new sign. It's a freestanding sign. It is much more attractive than what was there. It replaced the sign that was near the center's main entrance on Indian Head Road. The property is surrounded on its north and east by commercial uses, but on its south and west, there are residential uses. We are asking for 2 variances, as I mentioned earlier. The first is to maintain the height of the parking lot poles, which, according to the town code, are considered to be accessory structures. And in the town code, accessory structures can only be 17 feet in height. So because it's accessory structure, we need to come here to ask for the variance. There are a total of 7 poles that are currently on the site. 6 of them previously existed. As I mentioned, there was 1 added pole during the renovation. The original poles on the site ranged in height from 21 feet to 34 feet 3 inches. Now there are 3 light poles, as I mentioned, 2 of the existing and 1 of the new poles that are approximately 38 feet in height. And the remaining 4 poles are being maintained at their pre-existing heights. So although we need variances for them, they haven't changed at all. It's really just 3 poles that have gotten taller. But because there are only 7 poles that light the entire parking lot, the poles need to be taller than 17 feet for sure. They need to be higher so that the light can cover more of an area so that the parking lot is safely and effectively lit. The 3 poles that are located closest to the building also have additional light heads that are about 2/3 of the way up the pole, and they light up the building and some of the parking lot closest to the building. The second variance is for the sign. As I mentioned, it is 88 square feet in measurement. The town sign regulations permit 1 ground sign having an area up to 32 square feet on commercial lots that have a lot area of up to 5 acres, and 2 ground signs of up to 32 square feet on commercial lots that have more than 5 acres. This site is 10 acres. We actually could have 2 signs at 32 square feet. We are asking for just the 1 sign. And I also want to point out that the sign panels that are there now actually are less than 32 square feet. The reason why we're asking for the variance, and I just think that this is a problem with the town's code, is that they actually penalize people for making the sign more decorative. So the sign panel that's there, the TJ Maxx, and then there's a vacant panel, if that was installed on a steel pole, I wouldn't be here tonight. But because we made the sign look real nice, it added more structure. It's encased in piers, brick piers. It has an ephes crown on the top. You now, under the sign regulations, have to measure a cross-section of the sign that has more than 150 square inches. You have to count it all. And that's why we're asking for the variance of 88 square feet. But our sign is actually compliant with the town's code. The sign will be internally illuminated, and it will identify TJ Maxx and 1 yet unnamed tenant. But the sign, as you can see from the photographs that I've attached, they have the old sign and the new sign in there. You can see it's much more attractive, and the new sign does match the facade of the shopping center. The sign is also consistent with the signage that is located at other large shopping centers that are located nearby. As I mentioned, there's only 1 large shopping center in Kings Park, so the nearest would be Comac. At King Cullen Plaza, there are 2 ground signs that measure approximately 100 square feet each, which is 12 square feet larger than what we're asking for. We're only asking for the 1 sign. Macy's Plaza, there are 2 signs, 116 square feet each. Again, 28 square feet larger than what we're asking for. And then you may recall that this board approved a second sign at Mayfair Shopping Center, which is 187.4 square feet. Again, much larger than we're asking for here. And then I'll wrap up, but I just wanted to point out, after the last meeting, we took the opportunity, because we knew there were some neighbors in the audience that had concerns about the variance application. And since we were here, although we couldn't present the application, it did give us an opportunity to meet with them and listen to what their concerns are. And I'm happy to report to this board that there were, I believe, 4 concerns that were raised. One had to do with the orientation of one of the light heads that was placing glare on the neighboring property. There was an issue about screening that had died along the southerly boundary of the shopping center between 2 of the properties. The third was that there's a leasing sign that was facing a residence on Indian Head Road, and she didn't like that. And then also there was I guess a payloader that's used for removal of snow, which was parked right on Indian Head Road, again, in front of this resident's home. And I fully understand that she didn't like to stare at that. And I'm happy to report that I brought these all to my client, who said that we'll take care of all of those. So, and we're happy to, to agree to those as a condition of the grant of the variance. So, I don't know if you want to hear from Jay Tuller to hear about the light poles. I don't, if it's necessary, but.
Well, then let me just tell you
Sure.
where I stand.
Okay.
I live in Kings Park, so I'm very familiar with this
Right.
shopping center. I visited this shopping center at 10 o'clock at night. It looks like a ball field. I don't know why you need so much lighting. First of all, you have lighting under each overhang of the shopping center. There are lights underneath that overhang. These poles, you have 4 lights on every pole. I mean, it is extremely bright. I don't understand it. And I don't understand because all the stores were closed. So, I mean, these lights are on until what time at night?
Well, that I don't know, and there may be an opportunity to have them either turned down. I'm sure they don't want them turned off. I don't think the town wants them turned off because they'll, that'll end up being a gathering
I don't see
place.
other shopping centers with this much lighting, and this being, I mean, it's excessive, I think. That's my opinion, and I'm just going to tell you that I was there, and I just felt it was really excessive as far as lighting on the shopping center.
If I can ask a question, I know
Sure,
that might
go
not
ahead.
be appropriate, but I live very close by there too. I don't know, I don't recall, I don't perceive a major difference from what was there before. Now, I may be wrong about that, but again, I pass it all the time, and it's not like it passed by one day and said, oh my God, that's so bright. I mean, I'm not noticing that. Are you noticing a
I
marked
think
difference?
more lights were added to the poles.
Oh, they were. No, there's no question about that. Of course there were. But, the lighting there is more efficient. The pole heights, like I said, and that's a very, very minor, it's 3.5 feet difference from what it was before. The heads on them are shielded. The boxes are shielded. Now, there are those spotlights that are 2/3 of the way up. I know that's the cause of the concern, at least for one of the neighbors, or maybe one of the issues for one of the neighbors. That we can orient closer, because it does actually face the houses. When it was installed, it needs to be adjusted, and it needs to be pulled in so that it faces more towards Key Food and not towards the houses that are next door. Because right now it kind of faces right over the fence. And I'm sure you're going to hear from people about that. But we're happy to make adjustments. We're happy to place shielding on the lighting, because there's no need, obviously, for the lighting to spill over from our perspective, and we don't want to, we don't want to aggravate the neighbors either, because if I lived there, I wouldn't want to see, the light spilling over the fence. So we can do that, and then the 2 houses that are, the neighbors actually pointed out to me about this screening, because I pass it every day. I didn't pay attention, but then I looked at it, and there's a gap in the screening that's there. Some trees apparently died, fell in the
there is.
storm, never got replaced. I told my client, it's just, you have to do something about this. So they said, look, we'll replace the screen, the screening that's there, hopefully to the satisfaction of the neighbors.
My other concern is that if I don't know how the rest of the board feels, and I'm only speaking for myself, but if this is approved for the height, to 38 feet, we have to be careful that we're not setting any precedent for any other shopping center. So that is another concern that I have.
Well, I mean, it's a legitimate concern, except that you have to remember that what was there was almost the same height. I mean, they were 35 feet before. So it's, or whatever, 34.5 feet. So they're 3.5, they're this much higher than they were originally. They were already exceeded the 17 feet. So that, so to the extent there'd be precedent, you'd have to find another situation where you had the same circumstance. I don't think that whatever is if something is granted here, I don't necessarily think that it carries over to another shopping center unless the shopping center had the same pre-existing condition that we had, which was very tall poles to begin with.
Okay. Planning?
Just to let the board know, there's a recommendation that I think was sent by email to the board. It should be in the packets. It should also be in the file.
Okay.
I have not seen that. I don't know if I
You
can see
want
a
to say,
copy of that. Is that something
he's
that I
entitled
can?
to say, what was the recommendation? Ms. Guardino wants to know what the recommendation was.
Sure. If you'd like, I can share the document with you, but I will let you know that the planning department, and I'll start by saying that this was written for the last meeting on June 16th, that the recommendation of the planning department is not to approve the extended height of the poles. And then with respect to the ground sign, we came to relatively the same conclusion, that the sign itself is close to being in compliance with the code. I think we measured it at 42 square feet. Maybe it is, it might be smaller, it might be the 32, but certainly the sign itself is much smaller than what it appears to be in the advertisement. It's the ornamentation that adds to the size of the sign. There are some conditions that we would recommend if the board feels that they are in favor of approving these these variances,
Yeah,
which
we'll
I can
look at-
discuss at a later
We'll
time.
discuss that. Okay.
Okay.
Is there any other questions, gentlemen?
No question.
Okay.
If I could I just address the 5 factors?
You certainly can.
Okay. So the first, whether a variance will not, will create an adverse impact on adjacent properties or the neighborhood, I submit that it will not, because the height of the new poles are only 3.5 feet taller than the tallest pre-existing light poles that were on the property. To the extent that there are complaints, as I mentioned, about spillage of light beyond the property line, my client is willing to adjust and/or shield the heads to ensure that the neighboring properties are not adversely impacted, and to add evergreen screening along at least the Erickson and D'Estasio properties. The new ground sign is a decorative addition to the shopping center's constructive materials that match the facade of the existing center. It is also not disproportionately large or out of scale with a shopping center of this size. It will be located along, or is located along the parcel's frontage on Indian Head Road, and it is not directly visible from any of the surrounding residential properties, at least to the south, north, and west. The size of the ground sign is consistent with and even smaller than some of the existing ground signs that are located at other large shopping centers. I do not believe that the request is substantial, because the new pole heights, again, are only 3.5 feet taller than the existing pole heights, and the variance from the sign area requirement is created solely by the way that the sign area is calculated under the town code to include the decorative base and support structure. Third, the benefit cannot be achieved by an alternative method, because if the light poles are brought down to 17 feet, the 7 existing poles would be insufficient to safely and effectively light the entire parking lot. And since the sign panels are actually less than the permitted 32 square feet, there is really no way to create an effective decorative sign under the town code regulations. The variance would not cause an adverse effect on the physical and environmental conditions of the site, because the site was already developed with 7 light poles that were nearly 34.5 feet in height, and already had a comparably sized ground sign. And then finally, the difficulty is self-created, because the applicant, as you know, is charged with constructive knowledge of the applicable zoning regulations, and it has placed the light poles and added the new light pole and added the new decorative sign that exceeds the maximum sign area. However, under Town Code Section 267B, this factor is not dispositive in the zoning board's determination. I have nothing further.
I'm going to let other ones,
Sure.
anyone here speak, but you know there's no action tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Is there anyone here that'd like to be heard on this application? All right, line up, just come up, please. I guess there's only one. Okay. May I have your name, please?
Barbara Erickson.
Use the microphone, Barbara.
Barbara Erickson,
Spell your last name.
Ericksen,
Your address, please.
7 Hudson Drive.
All right. Raise your right, Kings Park, right?
Yeah, Kings Park.
All right. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Okay, I'm one of the people that don't have any buffer anymore. I had pictures and brought my laptop. I don't know if you can see that at all.
Well, we've been to the site, so
Okay.
we know it very well. Thank you.
I mean, I just, not only, I don't have any trees in my yard. There's two other people on my other side, they have trees still. I mean, down further, they still don't have trees either. But the buffers that they had put there are no longer. I mean, I'm the one that's probably most affected by the lights coming into my yard. Where I have a picture where it's at 9:30 at night. I'm right in front of my bedroom window, and I see the 1, 2, 3 lights, and then the one over on Indian Head Road. I do agree with you. I think the lamps that they use, the lights itself, are a different light than when they had before. I mean, I've lived in that neighborhood since 1982, so I think the lights are a different type of light, like maybe an LED or as opposed to they're the lights.
Okay,
It just makes it more easier for people to hang out there too.
okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Duly moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Did you want to come back? I'm sorry, I closed it. I should have let you come back. Okay. Well, let me go back. All right, go ahead. Tell me if you want.
Well, Mr. Tuller is saying that he doesn't necessarily need to say anything, but if I could say one more thing, I just want the board to remember that if the variance is denied, it's not like the poles go down to 17 feet. We'd be forced to put the poles back to where they were, which is going to be 34 and a half feet.
You had variances for 34 and a half feet?
They were pre-existing condition.
At,
At 34, they were pre-existing. We have a C of O for the shopping center. It's only because we changed the poles. They physically added poles. So all that happens is we go through the expense, we lose the poles that are there, but they go to 34 and a half feet, which is what the pre-existing condition was. So they get reduced by this much. I think my own feeling is that I prefer if we have an opportunity to address the lighting through shielding or through maybe turning off some of the lights late at night, or address it that way, rather than to have my clients go through the expense to just take the poles down, maybe cut them 3 feet. I don't know what they do, or they order new ones that are 3 feet lower so that the old ones go in. The light across from TJ Maxx would be lost because that was not a pre-existing pole. So that means by TJ Maxx, which I don't think is affecting the neighbors because that's on the north side. But that pole, I guess, conceivably would have to be removed or brought down to 17 feet. So, I don't think it gets us to where we want to be. I think there's a better way to address the concerns, if that's my point. Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you so
yes.
much.
Yeah.
Good.
Can I ask this gentleman a question?
Sure.
I got to swear him in.
Yes,
He
sir.
can't.
Yeah, I know.
Let me have your name, please.
Jay Tuller,
Spell your last name.
T-U-L-L-E-R.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I probably need your address, too.
18 Mystic Circle, it's Bay Shore, New York.
Okay. Go ahead. Ed?
I was reading your little biography here, very impressive. When you design shopping centers and you're looking at trying to, go for LEED, environmental friendly lighting or whatnot, my understanding is that these are metal halide lights.
Those are metal halide lights.
Would that fall under your program, or would you? I don't mean to put you on the spot now, but
Well, the site is not being submitted for LEED
No,
certification
I
or
know.
accreditation. So the lights would, if they meet certain energy requirements, then yes, they would, but the most efficient are the LED type fixtures.
right.
But they are, I don't know what kind of lights were up there previously, but they're most likely more efficient than what was there. I mean, because if you notice the difference, that means they're brighter and they're doing what they should be
Okay.
doing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very well. Okay. Now we'll close the hearing. Go ahead. Would you do the next one?
You got to bring Tansy back.
Oh, do we? Okay.
The next application to
Can
be...
you wait a minute, just 1 second? I didn't realize Mr. Tansy was coming. Joe, could you ask Mr. Tansy to come back? Could we ask Tony, Mr. Tansy, to come back? He didn't hear me. Okay, thank you so much. Good night. Yeah, I have his phone number. I have my phone with me. Where do you go out for coffee?
I said he was probably watching the game.
Yeah.
Ready? The next application to be heard is case number 17161, Sean and Anne Marie Hickey. Location is 3 Oak Run, the northeast corner of Oak Run and Westminster Court South. Located in Wisconsin, the property is zoned R15. The request is a variance to reduce the front yard setback from the curb on Westminster Court South from 20 feet to 11 feet for an existing 6-foot fence.
Do you have everything? Do you have the affidavits with you?
We have the affidavits, right?
She just gave it to you. She gave it. Thanks. May I have your name, please?
My name is Sean Hickey. I'm the owner of 3 Oak Run, Wisconsin, New York. My wife is here with me. She is also the other owner of 3 Oak Run, Wisconsin.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm here to talk about the variance application for the 6-foot fence that was placed on a side property at Oak Run, on the corner of Oak Run and Westminster. I will follow the outline addressed by the board earlier in terms of, number one, does it have an adverse effect on the neighborhood? That could be subjective, but no, it does not have an adverse effect on the neighborhood. And the neighbors who are on that street between Oak Run and Westminster, there's a total of 8 homes, okay, believe that it is aesthetically pleasing. It supports the style of the neighborhood. It does not obstruct view, because if you look at the photos of the home, the actual fence is set back, okay, to the rear end of the house. So you still have a sizable front yard there. It is a court structure. There's 2 homes past that home, and the view from the other neighbors, they would prefer that there would be no change to that structure, because, you know, by doing it, if from an alternative perspective, there is a row of lush evergreen 12 to 18-foot Leland cypress trees that complement that fence and support the view from the surrounding neighbors. Does it have an adverse effect on the environment? The answer would be no. And is it self-creating? Yes, it is self-creating.
Okay. Planning? Gentlemen?
No question.
No questions. Okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Very moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our hearings for tonight. Thank you so much.